G'day everyone, it's another new week. I'm a little bit hampered to start with this week by lack of materials. I'm not sure when the Mitchelite sheets are turning up for me to begin on the cabinetry stuff, but I've got the bed to continue on with. There's various other things that I can do while I wait for materials for the main focus for the week. So I'm just going to get on with what I can do, and when materials arrive I can decide on priorities. This is our underbunk air conditioning unit, and I've decided that before I get too carried away with the bed, it's probably a good idea to do the work necessary to install this, which involves cutting some holes in the floor over here for the venting of the unit. Okay, as near as I can figure, that's where it needs to sit. So I will make a test hole probably about there. There's a chassis member, chassis member that runs across here, and so I'm going to make a hole here just to check that I've got this measurement correct. It's pretty close, but I could be out a little bit either way. So I'll make a hole kind of in the middle of where it needs to be. I've got room to move it if I need to, once I know exactly where I'm sitting in relation to the floor of the vehicle. Got revised marks of where the body member sits, so now I can map out where these holes, where I'm going to cut these two holes, so that I am straddling that member. Jigsaw blade is only just long enough, arguably not quite long enough for this. This is one of the few times on this build where having a multi-tool would be, oscillating multi-tool would be quite handy. I don't have one, and I'm not buying one for a few cuts. Well, it's time for me to eat my words, I guess. In the end, I decided that the right tool for the job is better than the risk of injury or busting things. So I went and bought the tool. Okay, let's try setting it in place and see how close we are to having it fit. Okay, so here we are from underneath. That's the outlet, the exhaust side. It's looking alright, I think. And this is the intake. So it's meant to have a little bit more opening than it's got, but I don't want to compromise this structural member. As you can see, it's what holds the van up. So I don't want to cut into this rib of the structural member, but I will take a little bit more of the floor level off where it's got the bumps. I think that's holding it sitting just a little too high. It's not going to come down onto its seal properly. So now what I'm going to move on to is the wardrobe, which is going in this space here. So I need to put a section of ply on this wall before I put the wardrobe in, and I figure I may as well get on and get that done. But before I do that, I think I need to test the shower plumbing to make sure there's no leaks. So it kind of feels a little bit like a distraction from what I'm trying to do today, but I'm just filling up the shower tank. It's nearly full, so I'm going to turn the hose off, and we'll turn the pump on and see what happens. The pump has just shut off, so that's a good sign. I haven't run any water through the system yet. I'm just letting the pump pressurise. Now I'm going to go and take a look underneath. So I do have a small leak from this fitting on the end of the Stefani filter. Looks like it's coming through between the plastic fitting and the brass fitting. Same thing at the other end by the look of it. So probably just not enough thread tape. So I've got a few minor leaks underneath. Nothing in here that I know of, but I haven't actually run any water through this yet. So I'm going to just ease the mixer open and let some water run through and purge the air out, and then check for leaks. Alright, I'm not hearing any more air, so let's see whether we've got any leaks over here. Oh yes, we've got some water. Where is that water coming from?
Some time later.
I just got done repairing all the leaks in the shower system. There was one that was caused by me not tightening a hose clamp properly. There was one leaking PEX fitting, and all the rest of the connections that were leaking were because I'd been stingy with the thread tape. So maybe that's a lesson for somebody. Don't be stingy with your thread tape. Just here is an illustration of why I've used a slot drain. The van is nowhere near level at the moment. It's low at the rear, but because the slot drain does what it does, I've got water pretty much to the top of the slot drain at the back here, but very little water, just water beading on the shower floor. And if I run the shower, it drains down into the tank. So you can see that the level, it's how much the van is out of level at present across that 450 millimeters. But the shower is draining reasonably well, even though it's well out of level. This is what I'm going to be making the wardrobe and kitchen carcasses out of. It's called Mitchlite. It's a PVC, high density PVC foam product. I could build a lighter weight kitchen and wardrobe using sticks and thin ply like I've been doing with some of the other stuff. And I did consider doing that, but the attractions to this are it's waterproof, it's lighter weight than a high quality thick ply. It doesn't require painting. You can paint it, but you can use it just as the finished surface. So it's going to be quicker for me to build the carcasses out of this than it would sticking thin ply, and at this point time is of the essence, so that's part of the reason for choosing this. Well, that's the first panel of the wardrobe made. As you can see, I'm allowing for a toe kick down the bottom, which will be separate, which will make it easier to get the whole thing in. On the bathroom side of this panel, I've routed relief for it to fit over the pieces of timber which are supporting the mixer. So now that I've got this first panel shaped and fitting pretty well, I can use it as a pattern for the other side of the wardrobe, and it'll get me pretty close for that as well. The shape will need a little bit of adjustment because it's not exactly the same, but I can also probably use these as pattern for the fridge pantry cabinet on the other side, which will be a pretty similar shape. So we've got both sides of the wardrobe cut now, the big panels, and they're fitting pretty good. They might need a little tweaking once I've actually assembled the cabinet, but for now I'm happy with where they're at. And I've checked this one over on the other side where the fridge and pantry cabinet is going to go, and it's pretty close for that as well. So before I start assembling the wardrobe, I'm going to use this as a pattern to mark out the panels for the fridge side. Okay, well, it's one thing to be able to put a single 16mm thick panel into place, but it's something else to be able to put an assembled cabinet into place. And so now it's the moment of truth. We're going to try and put this cabinet in and see whether we can actually get it in there, or whether there's adjustments we need to make to be able to get it into place. Okay, well, we've got it into the van. That's a good start. Well, it's almost in the right place. Well, I'm pretty happy with how that's come together. At this point, I'm going to pull it back out, just sand some of these sawn edges. This needs to get primed and painted. That will stay exposed in the end. And just prep all this for painting. I could go on and make drawers at this stage, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do the paint prep, and then I'm going to get started on the kitchen cabinetry so that I can do all the drawers in one go when I'm set up for doing drawers. Well, with the wardrobe carcass done and temporarily installed in the van, it's time to turn my attention to the fridge / pantry cabinet. Okay, that's pretty close now. I've got it squared off the floor to make sure that I've got it sitting like that correctly. Its gap down here is pretty nice. It's a little big up here. Actually, the whole thing needs to go up slightly, which will close up a lot of that. I've got this first side fitting really well now. I'm really happy with it. So I'm just going to clamp the other one to it and then use the trim router to trim it, because I checked and the fit on both sides is pretty close to the same. So this is our fridge, and so of course one of the critical things in sizing the fridge cabinet is fitting the fridge. need to reverse the door anyway, but Vitrifrigo provide this surround for fixing into your cabinet, but it's kind of huge and it adds quite a bit to the size, to the width I would need for the cabinet. So I'm just going to pop that off and see whether it's feasible to make the cabinet a closer fit to the side of the fridge and fix some other way rather than using this. Okay, I've got the door swapped around and settled on the dimensions that I'm going to use for the cabinet. I'm not going to use the surround. I'm going to make the cabinet fit reasonably close to the sides of the fridge so that it slides back into place, and then screw through the cabinet out of sight through the sides of the fridge, and I'll just make sure that the screw depth that I use isn't deeper than the screw depth that they've used when screwing into the fridge themselves. I'm going to start by laying out on one of the sides the shelf locations. So I've drawn this cabinet all up in Fusion 360, and so what I'm doing now is just double checking dimensions on physical objects. The shelf heights for the shelves in the pantry, Melanie and I have set based on actual pieces of equipment that are going into the van. So now I'm just going to double check those dimensions that we worked out. So that's the fridge cabinet temporarily fitted. It is a little bit tight through this space, but we always knew that was going to be the case. Having that done means I can now start on the rest of the kitchen cabinetry. That'll be for another day because it's pretty much the end of the day. I'm going to clean up and call it a day. Well, I've made myself a kit-set kitchen here. Got my side panels for the kitchen, got my shelves pre-drilled, got pieces of wood to string it all together. Pre-drilled as much as I can, pocket holes and that sort of thing. An L-beam created for the back end of the cabinet to stiffen everything up. So I guess now it's time to do the assembly of it. A little bit of drilling and stuff still to do, but for the most part it's mostly done. Is the cabinet more or less in its place. I need to relieve a bit of material off the back of this piece where the frame for the door swings out, so that I can get it to sit back where it's meant to be properly. But you can kind of start to get the idea. So we have a bank of drawers down here, a long drawer at the top here, which is going to have our induction cooktop and our cutlery in it. Microwave convection oven goes in this space, another drawer below that, and then cupboard at this end with the sink in here. G'day, it's Friday morning. It might be tempting to think that we're nearly there on the first week of cabinetry. There's still quite a lot to do. Need to add the pieces of timber to define the drawer spaces down this stack of drawers here. And I've got drawer runners to do, drawers to build, doors for all the door cupboards and drawers. I still need to do overhead cabinets for back here in the bedroom, and overhead cabinet for the kitchen. Set up all the hinges and all that kind of stuff. So it's going well, but there's still a lot of work to do. So bench top obviously still needs doing, and then kitchen plumbing and all of that sort of thing. Flooring to go down. So we're getting there. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but there's still quite a lot of tunnel left. Okay, well, I've made a bit of a decision. I've decided that before I go building drawers and doors and all that sort of thing, I'm going to pull all the cabinets back out, and I'm going to lay the flooring. The reason for that is then I can put the cabinets back in permanently, and when I'm building drawers and doors and all of that kind of thing, I know that where they're going to be, they're not going to move. So that's the plan right now. We pull the cabinets back out and get the floor prepped and vinyl laid today. Really liking how that floor looks. So now I'll just give that a chance to go off for a bit and continue prepping the cabinets to go back in. Next cabinet to go in is going to be the fridge cabinet. But you might remember that some time ago I had this brilliant idea that the compressor for the fridge could go in this space down here underneath the fridge, which I still think is a great idea. But I now find myself thinking, I'm pretty sure I can get it installed. What happens if something goes wrong with the fridge and it needs to come back out? Could be tricky, because I think I need to put the fridge in as I put the cabinet in. Short of cutting a massive hole in the shelf here, near the front that the compressor could drop through, and then a slot all the way to the back for the refrigerant line to slot through when I install it. I can't see any way of waiting until the cabinet is in to install the fridge. Well, in the end, I've decided to cut the big hole, put the fridge in afterwards. It's not really ideal, but I don't want the hassle of not being able to get the fridge out if something goes wrong. So that's what I'm going for. So I could put this cabinet in now, but I'm thinking that I might just work out exactly how I'm going to mount the sink before I do. This sink is intended to be an inset sink, so mounted down through the bench top, but I would rather undermount it. So what I'm thinking is that I'll route a recess in here to drop this down so that it sits flush with my frame, and then the bench top goes down on top of it. So I think I probably need some timber around here to support it. It'll be gone off in the morning and I'll be able to route the slot for the sink to sit in. That glue's gone off nicely overnight, so let's get these clamps off and get the sink mounting sorted out. Well, it's 10:30 on Saturday morning and the kitchen cabinetry carcass is installed. I think the next thing is going to be putting the fridge in, because the longer I leave that, the more difficult that's going to get. So I think I'll put the fridge in now, and then I need to work on setting up drawer slides and things like that, getting ready to make the drawers. So good. Awesome. Fits. Well, that's going to be it for episode 24. I didn't actually end up doing drawer slides this afternoon. I need to go and get some screws for those. So I spent a bit of time this afternoon messing around with the Starlink again, seeing if I can get the travel router working, and it's just not a happening thing. I don't know why other people have had success with the same equipment. Not sure why I'm having trouble. I did think maybe it was a DNS issue, but it doesn't seem to be. So anyway, in the end, I think I've spent enough time messing around with that. I'm just going to hack the Starlink router to run off 12 volt with a 48 volt buck converter, and just move on. So thanks for joining me this week. It's been a big week. Really pleased with the work that we've gotten done. Big push next week will be doors and drawers and getting all this cabinetry finished off. So join me then. See ya.